Good evening to everyone joining us for our training series, Mobilize the Refugee Vote. My name is Stephanie Stevens, and I'm the campaign manager for We Are All America, housed at the National Partnership for New Americans. We hope you find today's webinar inspiring. You'll hear from our organizational partners and from former refugees, asylees, and immigrants themselves about how they're working to organize and turn out new American voters in November this year. The We Are All America campaign was established in 2017 in response to the urgent need to bring together refugee resettlement, immigrant rights, and faith-based groups to reclaim public support for policies and practices that welcome and protect those seeking freedom, safety, and refuge in the United States. Leading the campaign are the organizations listed on your screen. For tools and resources associated with today's webinar, go to weareallusa.org. Point your browser toward the Take Action drop-down menu, Mobilize the Refugee Vote, or you can simply click Take Action from the front page of the website. We'll be uploading resources as they become available throughout the series. All right, let's get started.
Immigrants and refugees have come under sharp attack since the rise of anti-immigrant rhetoric and policies. They have responded by becoming U.S. citizens in record numbers. In the last 6 years, an estimated 5 million newly naturalized citizens will be eligible to vote in the 2020 presidential election. Naturalized citizens are now 1 in 10 eligible voters in the U.S., a doubling of the immigrant electorate since 2000. The newly naturalized are multi-ethnic, multiracial, and diverse in age, from Gen Z to baby boomers and majority women. These new voters have the potential to sway the outcome of national, state, and local elections, especially in battleground states such as Florida, Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Wisconsin, among others. New American voters are a significant and rapidly growing voting bloc, yet there remains a 9-point gap between voting rates of naturalized citizens and the native-born. The New American Voters campaign will work to shrink this gap by targeting, educating, and turning out the newly naturalized. Join NPNA's New American Voters 2020 campaign today. Tell us your story and use the hashtag #NewAmericanVoters2020 to join the conversation. Your vote is your power. Own it.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'm Nicole Malaku, the Executive Director of the National Partnership for New Americans. We are a multi-ethnic, multiracial coalition working to promote immigrant integration across the country through policy, advocacy, and initiatives that improve immigrant integration across the country. Today I'm here to talk with you a little bit about the New American Voters 2020 campaign. NPNA's campaign is really an effort to help the newly naturalized vote in this year's elections. There are over 5 million newly naturalized citizens that will be turning out in this year's historic elections. We know that the newly naturalized are a powerful voting bloc that have significant opportunity to sway elections in every part of our country, including states where there are immigrant or refugee constituencies that are growing and contributing significantly to demographic shifts in their states. Places like Florida, Arizona, Colorado, Michigan, Minnesota are critical states for this year's elections. This powerful new voting bloc needs to be engaged and courted by not only our elected officials, but candidates as well as we lean into the 2020 elections. We know that 55% of this emergent electorate are women, and a majority of them are between the ages of 35 and 45. So there's a powerful opportunity for us as a network to engage folks, help bring them information and resources to help them engage in this year's very important elections. I don't need to tell you, a group of advocates, just how deeply immigrants have been under attack over the last several years. Over the course of the Trump administration, there have been over 400 policies through administrative and legislative efforts to attack immigrant or refugee communities. Our communities will be heading to the polls this November in an effort to fight back and bring us back to a conversation of decency, justice, and equity for immigrants and refugees in this year's elections. We also know that it's going to take all of us to make sure that people have the appropriate tools and resources to be able to vote safely in this year's elections. That's why I would like you to visit newamericanvoters2020.org, our website where you can see a complete list of the New American Voters campaign partners, which are over 41 partners across the country, and specific instructions of how you can vote by mail in your state, and also your guide to voting at the polls this November. We thank you for being part of our campaign, and we look forward to seeing you in the webinars in conjunction with our partners at We Are All America, and look forward to getting you the information so that you can engage in this year's elections and vote for your family, vote for your community, and vote for issues that matter to you. New American Voters welcomes you to our campaign, and we look forward to our continued collaboration with We Are All America to ensure that refugees get out there this November and make their voice heard. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hans van der Weert. I'm the Vice President for Refugees, Asylum and Integration at the International Rescue Committee, IRC. So my organization was founded in 1933 by Albert Einstein. And since then, we've worked around the world with refugees and immigrants, along the arc of crisis, from Syria to Sacramento and from Moria to Montana. In the US today, IRC has 26 offices in 15 states. And every year, our caseworkers serve approximately 50,000 refugees and immigrants. Our legal experts have helped nearly 25,000 people become US citizens over the last couple of years. Today, we're deeply grateful for our partnership with We Are All America, MPNA, and other partners, whom we know do also an incredible amount of work in the field of immigration. Every day, we learn from you. As we collaborate on voter education and outreach to refugee and immigrant communities. Collaborations that today are more important than ever. But I'll come to that later. I'm very, very thrilled and inspired by the fact that so many refugees and immigrants are excited about the opportunity to exercise their right to vote. And that they want to help shape the future of, the communities and their country. But I'm also deeply worried about the fact that there are serious barriers for them to do so. Some people are afraid to vote based on the experience in the countries where they came from. Others are uncertain as they do not always know how the process works, particularly during COVID-19. It's also not unusual that people face language barriers. And in today's America, people have to find their way through vast amounts of deliberate misinformation. So IRC wants to play its role and support people's right to vote and supports people's right to be counted in the census. We believe that our work should not stop after we support refugees and immigrants to settle, to find employment, to learn English, to access healthcare, to go to school, or to be reunited with their families. These first steps are so critical, don't get me wrong. But they're also incomplete until we've made sure that everyone who chooses to do so can exercise their rights and can have a voice in influencing the future of their new home and communities. And it's for that reason only that we've expanded our work nationally and locally, and you will hear from my colleagues, one of my local colleagues later today, that we've expanded that work to make sure that refugees and immigrants have all the information they need to vote for the candidate that they want to support. There is much at stake in this election. This country and all of our communities will be better and stronger when more people are involved in the decisions that impact them. Even more so, now active efforts are underway to make voting more difficult and less inclusive. Thank you, therefore, for all the work you and others are doing to empower refugees and immigrants, to help them become informed and equipped to vote. I wish you a great webinar.
I am Basma Alawi, Florida refugee organizer with We Are All America. Since March, we have been engaging and informing our refugees community in Florida about the 2020 election through storytelling, phone banking, text banking, and voter education. We also trying to make sure our communities have access to citizenship through our ongoing citizenship clinics. And lastly, we are making sure our new citizens are registered to vote. Our work will continue despite the challenges that we face. As some of you may know, refugees escape war-torn countries, corrupted governments, and mistrusted elections. So our job has been explaining the importance of engaging, voting, and trusting the process. Soon you will hear from some of our community organizations and some of our volunteers who helping making this work happens.
Since the beginning of March, the Florida Immigrant Coalition has been hard at work engaging immigrant and refugee communities in Florida. Through our civic engagement platform, Click.vote, we've been able to engage Floridians in English, Spanish, and Creole, the three most spoken languages in Florida. We are employing phone banks, relational organizing, and organic social media campaigns in order to educate, inform, and mobilize our folks to vote. In reaching out to voters in English, Spanish, and Creole, we've seen that creating a bridge to an oftentimes gate-kept process has resulted in success. The right to vote that many of us fought so hard to obtain is so difficult to approach when it isn't accessible in a language that you speak. By reaching out to voters in a language that they speak, we're creating that pipeline of lifetime habitual voters that our community needs.
Hello, my name is Benan Alzerghani. I am 18 years old and I'm the daughter of former refugees. My parents, I believe, came to America in the year 2000. Every week, especially on Wednesdays from 5 to 7, I make calls for 2 hours straight, and during these calls, I hope to encourage people to go out and vote in the upcoming election because each vote does matter. Regardless of what people say, each vote does matter. Hopefully making a difference by doing these calls and actually encouraging people to go out and vote. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Camila Durate and I'm an asylum seeker from Venezuela. I've been supporting We All America's phone banking to get former refugees to vote. For me, this is very important because I'm unable to vote, but getting our people and our community out to the polls is a way I can let my voice be heard and a way I can actively participate in such a crucial election. Refugees and asylees' voices matter, and we need to make sure that former refugees who are not U.S. citizens get out to vote. We're now able to reach out to voters in 3 different languages, Spanish, Creole, and English, and always try to accommodate others by making sure we connect voters with a volunteer that is able to speak their native language.
My name is Jennifer Tucker, and I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Jacksonville. As UUs, we have a first principle that acknowledges the inherent worth and dignity of every person, of course including the immigrant and refugee community. And our fifth principle believes in the use of democratic process in society. So we are excited for the opportunity to combine and express those principles by joining We Are All America and the Florida Immigrant Coalition in their work in mobilizing communities to go out and vote in the 2020 election. Every vote counts, and a simple phone call to check in with our immigrant and refugee neighbors to educate and encourage their participation in November is a fantastic opportunity to make a positive difference in these crazy times. Let's look forward to a record turnout at the polls this year.
Hi everyone, my name is Tatyana Andrews. I'm the Community and Civic Engagement Coordinator at the IRC in Salt Lake City. Thank you for letting me join you very virtually to share about Salt Lake City's efforts. I'm currently at one of our New Roads farmers markets, encouraging people to fill out their voter registration forms and complete their household's 2020 census if they haven't. So wish me luck, and I'll dive right in. Last fall, we conducted 6 listening sessions with recent and former refugee communities, including IRC staff. On the slide, you'll see a flyer for a Balkan session that we held. In total, we met with 57 individuals to discuss what voting barriers they and their communities face. We asked questions like, why or why not did you vote in the 2018 elections? What have you heard about voting? What are your main questions? Do you feel like your voice is heard? And a few others. Some of the findings that came out of these sessions include confusion about the voting system, fear of voting in the government, preconceived notions about how voting and elections work, language barriers, and a mentality that voting does not affect their lives personally. This feedback really helped inform the next steps of our project, which was to develop a voter education workshop to address these barriers directly. We also reference IRC's handy-dandy new voter handbook that the policy and advocacy crew created, so shout out to them. The workshop overviewed topics like active citizenship, what does it mean, why is it important, a brief breakdown of federal, state, and local responsibilities, elections, political parties, electoral college, voting, why vote, requirements for voting, upcoming election dates, being an informed voter, and voting by mail and in person. We ended with an overview of the 2020 census and what folks could expect in March, as these workshops had started in January of this year. We highlighted the importance of the census, the self-response options, and made sure people knew that everyone is counted in the census, regardless of citizenship. And we had voter registration forms on site. For the workshop, we created and printed voter information handbooks that people could take home and have as a reference that summarize the workshop. It shows important dates and deadlines for registering to vote and elections, information on how to register to vote, step-by-steps for voting by mail and in person, information about the census, as well as voting and census pledge on the back that people could sign and receive one of our super cool My Vote Matters pins that's shown on the slide too. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we were only able to have a few workshops at the local community center that we had chosen. We decided to transfer some of the workshop themes into detailed videos, including one on the 2020 census, voter registration in Utah, and voting by mail in Utah. One thing that really helped us move forward in our efforts was partnering with organizations who are already doing great civic engagement work in our community. Just a few that I wanted to highlight include Voterize, who is a Utah nonprofit committed to increasing voter registration and turnout. They provided us with voter registration training and easy highlighted forms we could use. In the photo on the slide, I'm wearing one of their incredibly bright green shirts that says, "Are you registered to vote?" so that people really can't turn their eyes away from me and are prepared for what I'm about to ask them. Other organizations include ACLU of Utah, who welcomed us to join their Voting Rights Coalition group that we recently renamed to Let Utah Vote. They are working on putting together all the materials and resources from the coalition's partners, including us, onto one site so that voters can easily access relevant and local information. We have also worked with Salt Lake County and Promise South Salt Lake as we continue pushing for households to complete their census before the end of the month. With these partners, we were able to start some in-person outreach this month, yay, at the New Roots Farmers Markets, which occur on Wednesday evenings and Saturday afternoons. We have tablets to help people complete the census on site, voter registration forms, a ton of census and voting swag, including the voter information handbook and pins, and of course, lots of hand sanitizer, wipes, and muffled talking through masks. The county was also able to schedule a few interpreters for our outreach to better assist the Nepali-speaking community at one market and Swahili at the other. On National Voter Registration Day, which is September 22nd, we will have voter registration and census assistance outside of the IRC office, following the same format of when our New Roots team sets up to distribute CSA shares and sell produce. For me, it has been incredibly exciting to help people complete their voter registration forms in person and be able to give them a pep talk about what they can expect next with mail-in ballots and make sure that they know that we're at the markets and available for any help they need through the election. And I'm grateful to be part of this network that is working to engage new Americans and other first-time voters to make their voices heard in the upcoming and future elections. Thank you all for listening and hope you are taking care of yourselves. If you have any questions, I threw my email on the slide, so feel free to reach out. Looking forward to listening to the rest of the webinar. Have a great day.
Hello, my name is Monique Velasco. I am the Associate Director at Alianza Americas, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about what is happening with TPS, or Temporary Protected Status, and about some other initiatives that we're working on here at Alianza Americas, including a really important one that is to get out the vote, especially of our Spanish-speaking community. But first, let's start with TPS. TPS is Temporary Protected Status, as many of you know, and it is a status that nearly 400,000 people in this country have had, many of them for decades. Recently, the Circuit Court in the Ninth Circuit issued a decision basically saying that they did not have the authority to determine whether the administration had legally terminated temporary protected status for some countries, for members of some countries who have been protected, like I said, for a very long time. Unfortunately, what that decision does is that it leaves the door open for the administration to move forward with terminating temporary protected status for many of our community members and family members. The countries that are directly impacted by this decision that came out of the Ninth Circuit are Sudan, Nicaragua, Haiti, and El Salvador. For members of El Salvador, what this means is that their status as temporary protected status would end in November of 2021. So not this November, but next November. And for members of the TPS community from Sudan, Nicaragua, and Haiti, their TPS status would end in March of 2021. Which again is next year. So there is some time. This decision does not end TPS today, and there's still a lot that can be done and a lot that can change between now and then. And so it's really important to stay connected to organizations and to really understand what is happening from trusted resources. It's also an opportunity for people to consult with lawyers and to consult with organizations who are accredited to give out legal advice about what they can do and what their current situation is, so that they can really understand their own legal situation in a better, more comprehensive way. And lastly, I wanted to talk to you about an initiative that we have regarding voting. Alianza Americas has created this great resource that is all in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking community at our website, alianzaamericas.org, where people can find out how to vote, deadlines of registering to vote or requesting mail-in ballots. Many of our community members are not very familiar with voting by mail. This is not something that exists in Latin American countries, and it's not something that a lot of people have used, even though it's something that has existed in the U.S. for a long time. But it is our website, our alianzaamericas.org website, has information about what it means, how you do it, when you can request it. It also has information about early voting and deadlines to register to vote. So we really, really encourage people to get out to vote. Elections deeply matter to our communities. Elections impact which judges get selected for the courts. Elections impact policies that are made regarding all of our lives. And so it's really, really important for people to get out to vote. And for those members of our communities who can't vote because of whatever reason, then we encourage you to help others get out to vote. Others that you know. Maybe it's your adult children who are over 18. Maybe it's your neighbors. Maybe it's your tias. Maybe it's your cousins. Whoever it is, to make sure that you can help at least a handful of or more of people to get out to vote. And if they're not sure how to do it, you can go to alianzaamericas.org to find out more information. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph Sacro. I am the Refugee Congress delegate for the state of Pennsylvania. We in Pennsylvania are mobilizing to turn out the refugee vote by working with various ethnic-based organizations, churches, and mosques. We also do what we call a weekly Pennsylvania election update with members of immigrant and refugee communities. That is, we organize Zoom meetings where people that speak different languages from Africa and from different parts of the world will provide summary of what is going on with respect to this year's elections and providing them with key dates. Additionally, we have also set up a Youth 2020 Election Task Force, which comprises of young volunteers that help elderly people with their mail-in ballots. So they go around and ask those folks that are having a hard time filling their mail-in ballots to make sure that they are mailed on time. Phone banking is another creative way that we have embarked upon. That is, we have in our database, especially in Philadelphia and its environment, Lancaster area, we have more than 3,000, refugees that are qualified to vote. We're still collecting individual phone numbers that we'll be calling them to remind them. So we are doing weekly phone banking as well. We also set up logistic team that will transport folks that do not have a transportation to go to the polling stations to cast their vote. So we have set up volunteers. We have now more than 15 vehicles that are on standby for election day. So those are some of the things that we are now doing in Pennsylvania. We also do what we call voter education. I explain to people what all at stake here, and that so those are some of the things that we are doing in Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anahita Sumik, and I'm the state refugee organizer for Arizona. And at this time, our We Are All America Arizona Coalition has launched the Refugee Voter Mobilization Campaign. And the goal of the campaign is to educate and uplift the voices of naturalized refugees on voter registration and to encourage refugees to be civically engaged and vote in the November election. So our coalition is spending time particularly doing outreach, education, and promoting civic engagement. And the way that we plan to do this is by hosting a phone text banking days through volunteers. We also intend to have a drive-through voter registration week at the end of September. And this drive-through voter registration will be done particularly in refugee communities and refugee-owned businesses. For example, at refugee-owned grocery stores or restaurants, certainly with COVID safety precautions in place. In addition to that, we will be doing virtual workshops in order to promote education and have former refugees who are naturalized citizens be able to share about their experience in voting for this, being part of this election this year. So the campaign itself is in partnership with organizations such as CARE, who is doing mobilization around the Muslim community, along with the resettlement agencies and other refugee serving organizations. It is a statewide effort, and our goal is to register as many naturalized refugees as we can from now until October 3rd. And then the second phase of this in October will focus on making sure that people get out and vote for this election cycle.
Good afternoon, friends. My name is Mohammed, Community Organizing Coordinator with Church World Service, based out of Greensboro, North Carolina here. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I wanted to share some of the amazing voter engagement work CWS has been doing during this election cycle. Since July of this year, CWS Refugee Community Organizing Team launched its voter engagement campaign in Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia. We have actively been educating, encouraging, and mobilizing naturalized former refugees, asylees, and immigrants to consider voting as part of their civic duties, but most importantly, as a powerful way to get their voices heard and choose those who will represent and advocate for their issues and values in the years to come. As a primarily resettlement agency, CWS Community Organizing Team has been collaborating with our local offices, affiliate offices, immigration and case management teams to build our list of new Americans who we can then reach out to during all the different phases of our voter engagement campaigns. We are also working with leaders in the refugee and immigrant communities to identify those who have become naturalized citizens of this country. So how have we been able to turn out the votes on mobilizing our network? Well, we started with a voter education piece, which include voter education workshops that are aimed at providing a historical background about voting in the United States, along with information about the importance of voting, why it matters to our community, a guide to voter registration, voting requirements, and the different ways one can vote safely and affirmatively during this pandemic. We have also joined state civic engagement tables in North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and have access through our partnerships to the Voter Activation Network, the VAN, which allows us to further our outreach, phone banking capacities, and also do some other great stuffs in the VAN. We're also encouraging new Americans voting either for the first time or those who are super excited about voting this time to share their stories with us so that we can lift those up, but also inspire others to go out and vote and possibly share theirs as well. One of the most important piece of our work is to be able to address the language access issue. So we recognize that many naturalized Americans have this language barrier that prevents them or discourages many from voting. So what we have been doing is to record these trainings, do a shorter version of the trainings that we will then have refugee communications consultants that we have brought on board, and other volunteer professional interpreters. We'll have them translate these videos into targeted languages spoken by prominent former refugee communities to increase participation and understanding of the process. We're also working with local refugee leaders in our network to host and facilitate individual voter education sessions for their communities at a convenient time for most people in the communities. The other thing we're doing, I think, is to encourage new Americans using messaging tools such as Hustle. We started using Hustle with the census campaign. We're now using it for the GOTV campaign. We're using Hustle and Strive Digital, which is a new tool, to remind voters about important dates such as early voting, absentee ballot request timeline. For example, we will be launching along with other partners a National Voter Registration Day on September 22nd using Strive to remind and encourage new Americans to make sure that they are registered and help other naturalized citizens to do the same. So some of the tools that we've been using, as you know, many in our community are very active on WhatsApp, Facebook. So we're using those to engage new Americans. We're also using PowerPoint, of course, for our workshops, but we're mostly relying on the built relationship our organizers have established with refugees and immigrant leaders and allies. So we initially since March, since the shutdown due to COVID, we have established regular virtual check-in meetings through Zoom, of course, some weekly, some bi-weekly with our leaders since COVID-19. And that has helped us as a tactic to transition into our GOTV campaign. We are always working closely with local leaders, refugee leaders, immigrant leaders, asylees, to get the word out to their respective communities. We are hoping soon to get some digital posters with voting information out as we move closer to the deadlines, and also translating those in targeted languages. Those are some of the information I wanted to share with you, and we hope together we can increase participation from former refugees, immigrant, and asylee communities, so that we can get the desired change that we're all looking forward to after November 3rd. Thank you, and stay blessed.
Hi, this is Anahita Panahi with the We Are All America campaign here in California, in partnership with the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, CARE Los Angeles, and IRC Los Angeles. In California, we will be undertaking refugee voter mobilization efforts through a pledge to vote on social media and a resettlement agency outreach program, along with our partnership with Chirla's Immigrant Political Power Project. This is the first time that we will be undertaking an electoral effort to reach refugee-specific populations with Iranian backgrounds. This tactic behind targeting the Iranian population in California is because the majority of Iranians fled the 1979 revolution in Iran and resettled here in California, primarily in Los Angeles and Orange County. There are over 111,000 foreign-born Iranians in California, over 60,000 in LA County. And based on the National Partnership for New Americans voter data, there are more than 26,000 Iranian New American voters since 2014 here in California. This pilot program will track former Iranian refugees through the Pledge to Vote on social media, a resettlement agency outreach program, along with language-specific voter education webinars, phone banking in collaboration with Chirla's Immigrant Political Power Project, and social media outreach. Some of the activities that we've undertaken to reach the Iranian refugee population is our partnership with resettlement agencies in making sure we can reach newly naturalized citizens. We've been calling Iranian voters through Chirla's Immigrant Political Power Project for the very first time and asking for their support on Prop 15, which would invest $12 billion every year in schools, community colleges, and local services that directs resources to vital programs and services like ensuring that we have clean water, effectively responding to pandemics, to homelessness, and housing affordability. Starting next week, we'll start our series of voter educational webinars in Farsi and Arabic and have open dialogue about the divide and the hurdles our communities go through to become civically engaged. We've also collaborated on a podcast with nationally recognized comedian and activist Maz Jobrani on the importance of voting and making sure the Iranian voice is united and heard this election season. Given his wide reach within the Iranian community in California, we're sure to get more Iranians to cast their ballots this year. In conclusion, we'll be able to understand the voter propensity levels among the Iranian refugee population here in California, which will allow us to improve our electoral work and capacity in understanding these specific communities for future elections.
Hi, Ms. Anahita. I have a question for you. Do you think that you're going to be able to get enough refugees to vote to actually make a difference in this election?
So Dara asks, do you think you're going to be able to get enough refugees to vote to make a difference in this election? And I when he said that, I go, Dara, that's one of the first questions I had. So go ahead.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, and I'll dive right in. I think that if we look at refugees as a whole, there's a lot of fears and stigmas related to voting in elections. And I think that has to do with those that have grown up in dictatorships, in authoritarian regimes. They haven't had the same voting rights. They've had backlash against voting in elections, and they've been afraid to actually cast their votes. So something that we want to build upon this election season is having open dialogue with resettlement agencies in California who work directly with refugees, those that have been particularly naturalized in the past 5 years, to have that dialogue about what it means to vote, what it means to be civically engaged and participate in our political system and actually make an impact. How many foreign-born Iranian voters do you think we have in California?
I would say 100,000.
Foreign-born. Now, let me ask you a question. When you say foreign-born, does that mean, like, I'm foreign-born, but I've been a citizen for whatever, 30 years or something? Are you talking about that, or are you talking about recent citizens? You're talking about
doesn't matter.
Oh, foreign-born. Jeez,
I included you, Moz. I included you. I included you.
I'm gonna say in California. Geez, you know, let me say a couple things. First of all, the census is due, and Iranians don't fill out their goddamn census forms. They really should, because the numbers according to the census is 300,000 in all of America. You go to Westwood, we have 300,000. So right off the bat, I know the numbers are wrong. But if you're going off the census,
300,000 playing backgammon. They're all playing backgammon at that one coffee shop. 300,000
backgammon and eating at Atari. I will say, I'm going to go with Tehran as well, because if the number is 300,000, which is what the census has, then let's go with 100,000.
Well, you guys are very close. I'm impressed. So the exact number is 111,334 foreign-born Iranians that are eligible to vote in this year's elections. Just here in LA County, we're at 60,544. So we know we're obviously very saturated here in Los Angeles.
And because we're Iranians, only 44 of those guys are going to vote. So just so you know.
My name is Fiston Mwesige, originally from Republic Democratic of the Congo. I've been here in the USA for almost like 5 years and 10 months. And I just became a citizen here in June. And I've already registered. And it's my first time to vote. I'll be voting here in November. And the question was, how do I feel as the first voter? Okay, I can't really describe the feelings. The feelings, first of all, for becoming a citizen, it was really a huge to me. Throughout all my life, I was a refugee. I've been called a refugee. And right now, I'm a citizen. I'm a member of the family of more than 300 million. So I get a new family. I'm a family member now. Now I'm an American citizen. I was so excited when I became a citizen. And right now, I just registered to vote, and I'll be voting here in November. And I missed the primary. I feel so excited. I feel so amazed. It's really different kind of feelings, because I feel I can voice my voice. I can voice my concerns, what I'm concerned about. And actually, I can vote someone who I can see can take us to the right direction, where I can see where I want our country to go. And it's all about the democracy. I'm exercising my rights. And because before I could not vote, and whoever decision that comes out, I will always go with it. But right now, I'm really actually exercising, and also I'm calling others to join me And because I have family member, I have friends that I'm really calling them to join so that we can vote, and some of them who really don't care about voting. Yeah, so it's a really great experience, and I can't wait to vote in November. It's really amazing. Thank you for this opportunity. Stay blessed.